OK, welcome back. Now, in the last hour, the Tory MP Bob Blackman has been elected as the new chair of the all-powerful 1922 committee, which will oversee the impending Conservative leadership contest. OK, so it's quite a big deal, this. But the selection was marred in chaos after voting reportedly closed earlier than expected. Well, I'm joined now by the Tory MP Mark Francois, the so-called leader of the five families. And Mark, you have been absolutely fizzing about this. Can you explain to our viewers and listeners, firstly, what happened, and secondly, why this matters?
I'll do it in reverse order, if I may.
All right, do whatever you want.
The 1922 committee oversee the rules for the election of a Conservative leader. They can change those rules. So particularly in the current situation, the chairmanship of the 22 is a very powerful position. We had an election today for the chairman. A lot of Tory MPs were uncomfortable that it was being done in such a mad rush. We've only just got back from a gruelling 6-week campaign. Anyway, they insisted we go ahead today. I've got a text here from the Whip's office yesterday saying the polls would be open from 5 to 6. I've got here an email from Bob Blackman, who was, he says, elected, confirming that the polls will be open from 5 to 6.
Yes, this is 5 till 6 p.m. tonight.
Right. Yep. I mean, think of that as like the polling card that people get to go to the polling stations in a general election. We just had one, right? I got there at 5:45 and I was told the polls had closed because someone had sent out a WhatsApp message about an hour earlier saying, no, the polls are closing at 5:30. A lot of people never saw that, and besides, the timings had already been set. So Edward Lee, the father of the House, the man who, helped re-elect the Speaker today, walked in behind me, and Graham Brady, the outgoing chairman, said, sorry, you're too late. And Edward pulled his phone out of his pocket and showed him the email from the Whip's office, the text from yesterday, saying, but it's 5 to 6. So to continue my analogy, we've just had a general election. Mrs Bloggs goes to the polling station with her polling card, and the presiding officer says, I'm sorry, Mrs Bloggs, you can't vote. Didn't you get the WhatsApp message? We closed the polls an hour ago.
So you're saying that you now need to rerun this election?
Saw Bob Blackman earlier this evening, and I said, you must rerun this. There were 23 out of 121 Tory MPs who didn't vote. The Shadow Chancellor didn't get to vote. Julian Smith didn't get to vote, right? I mean, it's a really serious matter, but you've got a bunch of senior Tory MPs who can't run an election.
Well,
we cannot have the man that presides over the rules for electing a new Tory leader elected in an election which had a major irregularity.
So, but what's the fear then, Mark? Because, so you talk about they set the rules for this new Tory leadership election. What's the fear? I mean, Bob Blackman, he's a Brexiteer, isn't he? I thought, is he not be right up your street? Is that right?
Look, these people have the power to change the rules. They changed the rules last time. They said you had to get 100 nominations or you couldn't stand for the leadership, right? They could change them again. I'm not saying that they've done this to favour candidate A over candidate B, but these people have real power, and the chairman has been elected in an election where the polls closed earlier than people were told they could go and vote. I was disenfranchised. So was the father of the House. So was the Shadow Chancellor. We've got to do this again and do it correctly. You can't start our parliamentary year in opposition with an election that was chaotic.
I do have to put this to you, which is that maybe it's this kind of complete and utter mess which is the reason why Labour won a landslide.
I'm not going to disagree with you. The decision to call the election when we did was mad. It was taken by 6 people in the bunker. It was the whole of the party, MPs, the voluntary party, most of central office, were expecting an autumn election. We thought it might be on the same day as the locals in May. Then we were told stand down. Then we were told you can book your summer holidays, and bang, out of nowhere, we're thrown into a general election. The voluntary party, our voluntary party members, right, have slogged their guts out for 6 weeks to get some of us back into Parliament, and they'll be watching this tonight going, what the blooming hell is going on?
And you worry, do you, reading between the lines, that there might be a decision made to take the vote for the next Conservative Party leader out of members' hands?
Look, I am utterly opposed to that. There are some MPs who are advocating that. Well, that's what we did last time, and look what happened to that. We've had two so-called coronations in recent years where the MPs eventually took the final decision. One was Theresa May, the other was Rishi Sunak. So no more coronations, thank you. Our voluntary party members have been to hell and back over the last 6 weeks. It's been the most difficult election I've ever been involved in. They got sworn at too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they have a right to pick our new leader. But still, not Bob Blackman to be fair, but still some of our colleagues are trying to say in private, oh, no, the grown-ups must take the MPs know bet. Really? They couldn't even run an election?
But just to be clear, as where we stand today, Bob Blackman is the chair of the 1922 committee.
Not in my eyes.
But you don't recognise that?
Not in my name.
Right.
If they want this to be legitimate, they have to redo it. If this was a general election and there was a problem like this, or if you'd had a parliamentary by-election and there'd been a problem over when the polls closed, you'd rerun it, right? Not in my name, right? We cannot have a committee that can set the rules for a leadership election chaired by a man who was elected in an election that had a major irregularity in it. We just can't do it. It's not credible.
All right. Mark, thank you very much for coming in tonight. Great to have you on the show. And we'll obviously be following this one very closely. So thank you very much. It's Mark Francois there.